Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, January 23rd, 2023 public board meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank. My name is Mike. I serve as the executive director. We do ask that members of the public limit their comments no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I turn it over to board chair, Mr. Daniel Cantor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to January 23rd, my mother's birthday, 2022, our board meeting. Real quick, can we do roll call to state quorum? I'm Daniel Cantor, board chair.
Christina Bechet, board member.
Ethel Knox, board member.
Bob Dennison, vice chair. Nate Hannigan, treasurer.
Aaron Chilowich, board member.
Okay, so we have quorum. We're missing our secretary, but he maybe coming later.
He said he will try.
He's in important meeting. Okay, officer elections, it's that time. So, as far as I know, everyone is fine staying in the roles they're in, and nobody seems interested in a mutiny, but, I guess we'll start. Sorry, this is always super clunky. Let's start with chair. Would anybody, well, I think we're supposed to,
Do you want to present a slate?
I believe somebody is supposed to nominate somebody. So,
I'll nominate Daniel to vice chair
thank you.
for the next year.
Would anyone else like to be nominated? Well, with that, shall we have a vote? I'll entertain a motion to vote. Maybe we should just do this all at once.
Sure.
How about vice chair? I would like to nominate Bob Dennison as vice chair. Are there any other takers?
That's it, do the whole slate, and then we can just vote on the whole slate.
Let's
Okay,
just do that.
good.
Anyone else interested in the vice chair role? All right. Treasurer. I can't do it again, so somebody else nominate me. If he's.
Do you think don't be Nate? Well,
I nominate Nate.
All right. The illustrious Nate Hannigan has been nominated. Is there anyone else interested in serving as treasurer in 2023? Okay. And secretary,
I'll nominate Bartek.
Bartek Stardai has been nominated to serve as our secretary. It would be his 5th year running.
It's getting good
God
at
bless him.
It's finally when you get it right, it'll change.
That's right.
It's gotten easier now that things are recorded. He used to have to take ages of notes. Anyone else interested in secretary? Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion to elect myself as board chair, Bob Dennison as vice chair, Nate Hannigan as treasurer, and Bartek Stardai as secretary.
I'll second that slate.
Any motion?
Do you want to move to adopt that slate?
Any
Sure, I'll make
discussion?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor of the thing I just said?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We're all doing it. Okay, so accordingly, thank you for entrusting me with this again. I'll do my very best. So now the chair appoints committees. We no longer have limits on the number of members that can be on committees.
We probably should pass our bylaw amendment. This is the second reading that actually does that. So maybe we should do that before the
I
committee.
thought we already did.
We did the first reading.
But aren't the bylaw changes about a term?
Is that all it is?
I think so, because we
I
redid the
apologize.
charter.
I apologize. You're right. We've changed it.
Please don't.
Sorry.
I'm trying.
Doing
Okay.
great.
Back off. This is when I get really deep. Okay, so having read everyone's emails, thank you guys so much for doing that. I think we'll start with acquisition, disposition, and construction. I would like to appoint, if everyone's willing, Bob, myself, Aaron, Ethel, and Christina. Sound good? Sure. Cool. On communications and fund, community engagement and funding, is that what we're calling it? That big committee, I would like to appoint, Aaron, Bartek, and Ethel. So far, so good. Should I stay on that committee? Hey, why not? And myself, so that makes 4. That's easy. Governance, can I ask Bob, Christina, and Ethel?
Sure.
Is that too many? Okay, because you have 4.
They meet once a month, right?
Governance is usually like quarterly.
Okay.
It's not very
So I'm
often.
gonna do 2, and see how it works out.
Hi, Bartek.
You've been elected secretary.
Thank you.
Congrats and thank you. Okay. Design, myself, Nate, and Christina. Cool. And then that leaves finance. Bartek, I'd like to talk to you about ADC after meeting. Okay. Finance, okay, I have Aaron and Nate as volunteers. They were the only 2 last year. I would be thrilled if we had a 3rd, if someone's willing. Numbers are super
It's a really fun committee. People-
Finance, what?
Yeah, you get to work with Stacy and Nate and Mike.
I don't know any of y'all, so go ahead, please.
You did it, you did it. You did, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so I don't think so.
so Ethel, that does put you on 4 committee.
No, I can't be on 4.
Yeah.
So I'm on.
Okay, so ADC, finance, comms, and governance. So we have a pretty packed acquisition disposition committee that's, I have 5. right
Okay, take me
now.
up to that.
You sure?
I'm absolutely.
Okay.
Want to be able to do what I say I can do. So can't be too much.
We can move around too, right?
Yeah. It's not.
That was.
Hey, you can attend the committee meetings, but not them.
This is what it's
That's also
about.
true, yeah. Yeah, so if you hate it, please let me know. Okay. We did it. We did it. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now, can we vote to accept the prior meeting minutes as uploaded to YouTube?
Motion to accept prior minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor of accepting prior meeting minutes? Motion passes unanimously, thank you. Me very disappointed. that
I know, don't bring the cat next time.
Really inconsiderate. Okay, quick announcements, maybe, quick. We're granted the distinction of being on the Daily Freeman's biggest, most important events of the year list for our closing on legacy cities. That was very, very cool. Thank you to the Freeman. We had, Aaron will tell us more, but some really significant donations came in right at the end of the year. So I believe that helped us accomplish our fundraising goal and then some. Very, very cool. Thank you to our donors. This month we had a board initiation, so thank you to Bartek and Mike for spearheading that, and for you guys for attending, and hopefully it was valuable. Of course, that's an ongoing It's a lot to learn. We Mike will have some updates on the sale of 108 Henry Street. But it appears that's moving forward well, as well as our acquisition of the Third Avenue property. This month, we submitted a resolution to the City of Kingston Common Council's Finance Committee to hopefully authorize the sale of 3 single-family homes, all of which were on the original list of 36 properties from back in 2018. For various reasons, we didn't require them earlier, but under essentially the new framework that we've proposed in the disposition policy that the council doesn't seem particularly inclined to act on, we have essentially taken that framework and applied it to these 3 properties to try to keep the ball rolling. So those are 38 Chapel, 488 Hasbrook, and 52 Grand, all seemingly good houses in need of major work, like we like them. And so that resolution has passed at Finance Committee. There's some fake news floating around that it's passed at the full council, which I like that kind of fake news, that it's not true. So I believe that goes to the council next week.
7.
Yeah, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, I said. And so I would say to our board and any illustrious members of the public, if any of those properties reside in your ward, please call your council members and ask for their support in this resolution. It would be pretty precedent setting, I think, for us. We've never purchased a property for less than the price of the back taxes, aside from Henry Street, which was donated through totally different methods. So this is a really, really huge potential thing that will, if we can continue to acquire properties that way, it will allow us to acquire properties that we've just sort of been prevented from acquiring because they were too expensive. So also thank you to our Director of Housing Initiatives, who has done a lot of work to help kind of clean up title issues and make all of this possible. So yes, encourage your council members to let us buy some houses and get them back on the tax rolls. And then the big news, we have 2 houses for sale, which started last week. We've received some applications. It's a 60-day marketing period this time, which we haven't done since January. It's been a while. Usually we do 30 days, so applications are open through March 18th. Spread the word far and wide on Instagram and Facebook. There are layouts that I tried to draw and then forgot to put a living room door into East Union, so
They're great.
asked and answered in the comments. Whoops. So there's layouts, there's mood boards for all of the, there's kind of a whole house one and then individually for each bathroom and each kitchen. And then there's kind of a basic fact sheet of the various kind of things to expect out of the renovation. So that's super exciting. There will be more kind of content going up about them, but as you guys know, but other people might not be aware, the houses are still in, fairly early stages of construction. So there is no like listing with finished photos. We sell the houses this way so that by the time everybody's worked through the qualification process and getting the mortgage and everything, essentially the completion of the home should align more or less with their closing, and therefore we don't have a house sitting vacant for 6 or 8 months during a housing crisis. So it's a little hard, but it's been affected in the past, and I expect it will be this time. So yes,
Could you send, email, or upload some of those images?
Yeah.
So that we can post
Yeah,
them and
that
push
was a
them?
good idea. Yeah. I'll send them around.
Yeah, Google.
Do you have a Google Drive?
Nobody uses it. Crazy.
every time it says, this attachment will be sent with Google Drive, I'm like, who knows what that is?
One
Just
other-
send it for me.
one minor thing, it is also on our intake page. Kyle put together a PDF with everything, so it's up there. It's not as nice as the individual images, but kind of somebody wanted one PDF in both languages.
Yeah, that's in the drive, and I can save all the individual images that went into that on the drive as well.
Awesome.
And, thank you. I might have some updated ones, like I realized on Instagram, I have to resize them for them to actually fit in the frame, so I have like those, if people want to put them on social. Anyway, we'll deal with that. Okay, I think that's it for me. Next on our agenda is a Q&A with Eileen from Capstone, but I don't think she's here.
Sorry.
She's working very hard pre-qualifying buyers and doing very hard work. However, if you have questions or anything, Eileen is an extremely nice person. She, I'm sure, would talk to any board members who would like to answer any questions. So this is not, we can't talk to Eileen, just not right in this moment. Okay, we have a public comment period. I don't believe we have any members of the public. As much as just so we'll skip that. All right, Mike, Executive Director's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will try not to rehash Daniel's amazing summary of everything. I've taken my report and kind of removed some elements that I used to report out on, like construction activity. I think that goes to ADC and makes sense. Sales and marketing, I think that goes to the comms committee, and I think that makes sense. So try to abbreviate it. The buckets that I'm reporting on right now are pre-development updates, the new funding updates, not the tracking of existing grants and funding, that goes to the finance committee. And then I have another bucket that, just so people know, if this works as a format, let me know. If I'm missing things, let me know. But in the pipeline, we have at least 3 homes, as Daniel mentioned, in 3rd Avenue. Those are the projects that we're working to secure. We don't yet own. The reso for the 3 homes, as Daniel mentioned, comes in front of the full council on the 7th. Kyle and I are ready, willing, and able for pre-development. We have everything set up. We had estimated the communication that was sent to the council was 90 days after the council's approval. We are well in front of that timeline, so we're ready to acquire those homes. Similarly, the disposition policy comes back before finance on the 8th. So if anyone in the world watches these things, that would be really helpful aspect of the city's process, get some focus on that. No recent updates to additional clearing of title issues from that resolution 172, although I know that process is ongoing inside of City Hall. We're hopeful to achieve the opportunity to possibly purchase 2 or 3 more properties through that process. So it's on our list. I'll keep it on our list to talk about as it moves forward. Kyle and I are totally ready to do pre-development on that as well. New foreclosures from the city of Kingston, no updates from last month, but the last update that we've heard unofficially was possibly something later this year. So we're ready to engage immediately if that comes into focus. The other ways that we're looking for pipeline properties include the National Community Stabilization Trust that we talked about last month. We brought that to the ADC committee with some updates, Kyle and Owen and I. So I think that can be talked about more at ADC, but Kyle is ready to apply. I'm ready to work with him on it, and we're excited. Get this thing moving if you decide to do so. 3rd Avenue, we expect to close before the next board meeting. It's been slower than we would have liked, but as soon as that happens, Kyle and I are ready to commence with all the pre-development work, and we're very excited about that. That's the pipeline section. In pre-development, we have 3 properties. We have Henry and Downs and Gill. Henry, there's a contract discussion that went through ADC. I think that would be more appropriate to talk about it on that committee level. Gill, no updates for this meeting. Downs, no updates for this meeting. New funding updates, the ARPA/SLFR, the state and local, I almost had it. I'm trying to use that term because that's what HUD uses. This was $1.1 million that the council approved a plan to allocate directly to the KCLB. More updates will be provided, I think, at ADC because we talked about that a lot there. But I would like to mention that in the board package, there's a really amazing SLFA, Affordable Housing How-To Guide from HUD that shows how the funds can be spent for affordable housing. So if you're bored in the middle of the night, like I am, you read it, maybe it's helpful. The other new funding update that we're working towards is LBI. I wanted to give a big shout out and say thank you to Stacy for your patience and your diligence to help me get the LBI disbursement number 1 submitted. We did that this week. We're waiting to hear a final confirmation that it's approved, but this is, for context, this is a $200,000 award that we received. Sorry, the Land Bank Initiative is part of a $50 million initiative from the state. I should probably start with the big picture. $50 million. The first phase is $25 million. Goes to all 26 land banks based on the size of the land bank, basically. So we qualified for the largest possible award per year, which is $200,000 per year to fund any number of categories, but we're applying it to general operating, and that's for 3 years. You have to apply each year, so that's up to 600,000. But we got our first package in. That's priming the pump, and some updates that I'll know more about. I'll send it out as soon as it comes out. But phase 2 of the LBI funding, which is the other 20, I believe it's going to be $25 million. It's a $50 million program, so there might be a phase 3. But this allows for between $100,000 and $2 million per land bank. It's competitive funding. It's an 18-month term that it must be spent over. And I don't have any more details because they haven't released the term sheet, but that will allow us to fill some of the gaps in projects in our pipeline or in our pre-development. When it comes out, I'll let everybody know. I get excited about this stuff, unfortunately, but I do. And then in the other category, I just wanted to mention an opportunity. Aaron and I are going to the church that I can't remember the name of, unfortunately, for that is attended by the family that purchased 149 Greenkill. They generously invited us to attend, so that will be on Sunday. We will go speak to everyone. It will be translated real time to the congregation, which is also Spanish speaking. So that's awesome. We'll bring some flyers here. And if anyone wants to attend, you can, but of course it's on Sunday, and that's what we're doing next Sunday. So thank you, Aaron, for doing that.
We have to.
Can't wait.
Yes, yep, real time. I wanted a little bit of housekeeping. We talked about this last year in August. They got really busy with everyone's vacations and stuff like that. Could we consider canceling the August 2023 board meeting? I keep forgetting to mention it. I thought January might be a good time to bring it up. We don't need to finalize it now, but it just, last year got really cramped and it was really hard to hold that meeting. So that's like my housekeeping thing. Okay, Daniel, I'll see you in August then.
We've never skipped a month.
We've never skipped a month, so
We'll do it. No, we haven't. Wait, fine. Why not? It's summer.
just wanted to put it out there.
I love a summer recess. I think we should also consider the board retreat.
I agree.
A lot of people do.
Is that okay with everyone to cancel it, or would you like to consider it?
I already know I'll be gone, so.
I figure a lot of people make August plans. Last thing, the flyers are in. Thank you, Aaron. They're from Copy Hut. This is 300. I don't know. Just thank you for being you. But they're here. And if you were here, I would give them to you. But if you're okay with it, I will open up the box.
Give them to others and I'll get them from you on Wednesday when I'm back in Kingston.
You got it. Last item is to wish Daniel well at his 12-6 caucus report, probably.
Thank you.
Yeah, excited about it. You hadn't mentioned it, but I thought maybe that was in the works.
2-6.
2-6.
What are we talking? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just,
I even wrote it down.
oh, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about that. All right, withdrawn. My report.
No, you already said it. It's already out there.
That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Let's dive into committee reports. Mr. Dennison.
Will be relatively quick. Report construction updates from, oh, it's not here. Since Whalen?
Should I try?
Not
to
yet.
Run it
Oh,
down
it's
real
not.
fast?
Well, he sent around charts showing where we are with each of our projects that are. under construction. There's only one that really shows anything of significance, and it's not a surprise. He's been negotiating a delay. I think it's in German. It's a delay, and you can see it on there. It's a different color, but he has it in hand. No, it's not a delay. He's starting to eat up more of contingencies than he's comfortable with.
We ran into some structural issues. That was the big one.
So we've left it so that fine, he has it in hand. If it gets to 75% of the contingency, he's going to report back. but I think he's in pretty good shape. His system seems to work pretty well, right? The stuff is pretty self-explanatory.
Oh,
That they are.
is that Kyle?
So that's been a good thing. So in his absence, we can look at his report and pretend like he's here. Good?
Amazing.
Amazing. Yes.
No, it's not gonna get you happy.
No. We don't-
Design.
And she could.
Franklin, now we get into Franklin. Ellen has done a great job with Franklin. We are terminating the contract for convenience with our contractor. He's negotiating with the contractor to close out. They've walked in, he thinks they have an agreement. He's yet to see the paperwork, follows up. When he sees the paperwork and we're satisfied, then we'll cut a check and we'll part friends. So far, I think our contractor who originally was upset when we canceled for convenience, but he seems to have come to the realization that it's the best outcome for everybody. That's the impression I have from him. So I know he's done a great job with the contractor. He's read the convenience, he's not gone or didn't.
We have an RFP draft. Yeah, so
So
once that's resolved, we'll RFP every meeting.
for someone else to finish the job. But we can't do that till we're free of our contract. That would be bad. Hamilton, our buyer is still trying to get an agreement with his contractor. He's apparently negotiated it, but he didn't get to execute it. Can't get his financing until he executes it. Once he executes it, then he'll get his financing and we'll close. And he'll go off and build that into a wonderful little house. Very
Hamilton's
Not
not
anymore. Because he's adding on and on.
It's gonna be as small as
It's a big thing. His front doors have arrived.
He's actually gonna put a bathroom in. It should be a big improvement.
He's working very hard.
So we're anxious and hopeful that he'll get to his, where he needs to be. ARPA, I drafted a memo to Bill Reynolds. You met with Bill. I don't know if you're- You met with Bill Reynolds the other day.
Yeah.
I drafted a memo, I drafted a note, I'd like y'all to read it and give me feedback. If everybody's comfortable with it, I will send it to Bill and set up a meeting to talk about how we can get this money, this $1.1 million. It's in our. So feel free to edit it, comment on it, do whatever you'd like with it. Bill and I overlapped at New York State DOT shortly before, and I've known him before from City of Kingston. So we do have a relationship. But meeting with him would be the next step, I think, to figure out how we can do this. I made some suppositions in the memo and taken a position that may or may not be what he wants to do, but I figured it opens the door, we can have a conversation and move it forward. Because above all else, there is a clock on this, and if we don't spend it, it will be taken back. So we gotta get going. So, Bartok, I guess, yes,
I'm gonna take off my hat and put on my
okay,
city hat.
okay.
There was a meeting this morning, with various parties at City Hall to discuss these funds, and I think we're close to landing on what we're proposing to do.
Good.
Yeah, and I think it aligns,
Oh, good, that's even better. That's right. Good, okay.
just one.
So if everybody's comfortable with that, let me know. I'll send it this week to Bill. And we'll sit down and talk about what we want to do.
You wanna give us a deadline for submitting? it?
Wednesday. Okay, get back to me by Wednesday. I'll send it to him Wednesday. How's that? I give you the date, but I don't know what the date is.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
What is that?
If I know what's the right date is. Right. Henry Street contract. Mike has been negotiating a contract with NetNovo to buy Henry Street. I think there's progress there. The vote would be to authorize you to enter into that contract? Yes. Okay. And from what I've heard, it has not been a walk in the park negotiation, but it's moving forward. And
But we had some miscommunications, I would say, but I think we're straight.
good. So Daniel will entertain a motion to authorize Mike to enter into a contract for the sale of Henry Street with Novo. Somebody make that motion. Or I can make the motion.
Motion to authorize
There you go.
Daniel to,
No, Daniel or Mike, who enters?
motion to authorize,
I think either of us can, but.
or Daniel to enter into negotiations
The contracting officer.
to sign the contract as presented.
Yes.
Yes, it's a final version. Novo has signed off on it 3 hours ago.
All right, sign it tonight.
Has everybody had the opportunity to review? Who would like to review the contract? Is in there for you.
Why don't you give the high level summary?
Well, so Novo will be purchasing the property as is where is for $165,000, which was based more or less on an appraisal that was conducted a while ago. And anything else super exciting? They, I guess for the record, they have proposed a daycare center, which is, needed in Midtown Kingston. The plan, kind of specifics of the plan will take place as they solicit community feedback and will, various community meetings. But that's their intention. We've asked them for at least draft timeline. They provided that.
Not yet, but they will before we sign it.
Okay, so can the vote be that the signing of this contract is contingent on receiving that and some kind of board discussion about it?
Yeah, there should be. People should respond to what it says, and
Yeah,
I know
like,
Novo's
I
working very
honestly-
hard on it.
That's great, but I don't feel comfortable just entering into contract when we,
Yep.
ask for that repeatedly. So,
So prior to the execution of the contract, we all should read the agreement again, and those of us that ever have not read it. If they have comments, get back to you.
Could do,
But
could do.
just if you're uncomfortable with it.
Sure.
Not if you have comments, because it's a pretty standard agreement. It's not really strange in it. It's good.
do you anticipate this closing happening before the next board meeting?
The current date is February 24th is the closing date, so I believe our next board meeting may fall very close to that. I can check.
27.
Well, we need a resolution to buy it, to sell it. You're in the contract. Is that enough?
I think so. I think the prior resolutions have been to authorize me to negotiate an agreement and bring the agreement back. And then there were preconditions to have the schedule. So now we have the agreement. It's been finalized. I believe Novo has signed it. We haven't received that yet. And so I think the next step would be to review the schedule before I sign, do it over email or before the next board meeting. If that's all right.
So if we vote now. Okay. So they give us the schedule, say, in 2 weeks.
Hoping so.
What do we do with it?
Well, it's non-binding. It's just a draft. It's external to the contract.
Right, but
It's-
given that they didn't really submit a written proposal thus far. Right,
Well, it's been the proposal, but it didn't include the schedule.
that's true, I'm sorry, you're
It's
right.
been the proposal that we bought, we said yes to, but it did not schedule. And my understanding of our desire for a schedule is just so that we don't, so that everything is above board and we don't end up with them sitting in this house for 5 years. We'd like them to move it, we'd like them to do it.
Well, and it's pretty much the minimum of what we would expect any buyer to provide is a plan for how you're going to get from A to B. So,
But again, not binding is important. I mean, look at what's going on with Hamilton. I mean, there's so many things outside of their control that you can't wreck the deal because we're at Hamilton can't get a contract and sign an agreement, you can't wreck the deal.
however, Novo's not gonna be waiting for bank, so.
But they could be waiting for a contractor when they sign.
Sure, which,
Bartek and Mike, given the committee meeting, which I also, the last the last finance committee meeting, which I also listened to for the city. Do you think the common council members, what would their view be, especially those that were somewhat skeptical or had questions about our disposition policy? What would their view be of our selling the property to no-go for a purpose other than affordable housing?
So, I know, Councilmember Worthington has been listed in Novo's proposal as a member of the kind of community group that would be trying to get feedback from the community and figure out exactly what were mistakes. I
I mean, it's still a clear community benefit, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's justified, I mean, it's so clearly it's well justified.
I agree, and I think that there seems to be support for the daycare center. I guess I'm just asking if anybody has any read on whether we're gonna if whether we will get political, I don't know, pushback in a month, even though it seems like a really positive thing to me.
It's one piece of it that we've already kind of agreed to do. What we say we're going to do is not just to do affordable housing, right? We have 4 pathways. This is the 4th for a community good. And the city recently made a decision to put property, sell property to a nonprofit for community good. And so we can see who finishes first, if that's the sticking point. But
I think also the reality is we RFP'd this 3 times. Received no qualified proposals for it to be housing.
and no proposals at all.
No proposals at all in the 3rd round. We, can't. Well, we've felt like the scale of this building is just too large for us to consider rehabbing it ourselves, as we've been doing with other houses. I don't really view this as a major issue. I mean, I think what I've personally learned is that someone's gonna have an issue with anything and everything, so that's not a reason to not do stuff. And we are here to make empowered, educated decisions about this very thing, so if all of us feel that this is a true community benefit and, the best possible use of this building, I think we try to do the right thing.
I appreciate that. To be clear, I agree with that as well. I just want to put it out there because I don't think it's the last time we're going to be talking about this building, even though I think that this is the best path forward for this building.
And Aaron, it may come up more in the comms portion of the meeting, but we had talked about messaging with logo or something to sort of set the record on the land bank side for that's why the schedule is so important. Say, this is why we're doing it. This is what they're doing. We are now selling it. That is the end of our involvement.
Yep.
Yeah,
So where are we?
I think we're headed toward a motion to approve entering into contract contingent upon receiving schedule that's been requested and having the opportunity to respond to it.
We have time and it should commence.
So I guess ideally we talk about if closing is really gonna be the 24th, then I think we would just talk about it at acquisition disposition. Should I just entertain a motion and repeat that?
Sure.
Alright, I will entertain a motion to authorize Mike to enter into contract on the sale of 108 110 Henry, contingent on the receipt of a timeline for the project and an opportunity for the board to review and respond to said schedule.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of that? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Nate, you're on the Zoom.
Okay, now, last thing, NCST. Remember, Kyle made a presentation about picking up houses from banks that are giving up on them, which require a short turnaround. And I guess our vote, we were authorizing Mike to enter if a house became available through this process. I guess the vote would be for us to join. Is that the right way
To
describe it?
apply.
To apply? To be a recipient of this? Is that what's it called, Cal? What do you want us to do?
Apply to be a community buyer, I believe is the
So we want us to-
terminology.
I think the way that this went 2 meetings ago, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we presented, but we didn't have everything. And in January, we were going to meet with groups that had used the program. So Aaron connected us. Thank you, Aaron. Kyle wrote up some notes. We talked about it at ADC. The feedback also included other EDs of land banks who had various, not a lot of volume was kind of the response or the general consensus. But right now we are poised to apply and be in what's called the first look program, which is the one where you get the first look. So we would be the only organization in Ulster County to be the first look organization. We would have a very limited time to respond to properties when they came to us. That's where we're at.
So we want a motion to apply.
The first resolution 47 was to authorize you to initiate the application process.
Initiate.
Thank you.
It has been initiated, it's not been finalized. I don't.
So just to distinguish
Thank you.
that from whatever we decide to.
So this would be a motion to finalize the application.
Thanks, Bart. Thank
Good to have a secretary.
So to set the record straight.
Get you like a stenographer. So
Motion to finalize the application for to join the NCSC as a community buyer, is it term?
To become the community buyer for Ulster County. With NCST. Right.
Okay,
So you made the motion. Is that the motion? Does that make sense?
Do you want to repeat it? I got it.
I'll second it.
all in favor of that? Aye. Motion passes once again unanimously. We're just killing
It's all-
Okay.
I'm done.
Before we move on quickly, can I just ask, so Mike, next time, or I guess this, because in order to actually purchase the property, the board would need to entertain a new policy, authorizing you to buy properties on a shorter timeline than we're used to. I assume that now comes after you apply, we get accepted to the program, and then we would entertain that policy. What's the process now, I guess?
I believe that is right. When we did our first presentation 2 months ago, we showed a sample board resolution authorizing the ED to do something, but I think Kyle and I need to figure it out. Honestly, we need to apply. Obviously, we won't be saying any resolutions that passed that haven't. So my guess is that we come back next month with a resolution that gets discussed to authorize me to do the actual thing. That's my guess. I don't know, Kyle, unless you have any further insights about that process. That's my guess.
I don't think it's worth passing a resolution until we're accepted.
Right.
Well, we just did.
Well, we just apply.
Oh.
Don't have to say yes.
Right, and then weren't we also kind of talking about trying to have like a dedicated acquisition fund where you would be authorized in these cases where we have like 48 hours or whatever to spend up to a certain amount?
Yes.
For approval.
That I think would be part of one of our possible new funding, asks.
Okay. So we've done what we need to do for NCST right now.
Yep.
Love that. Okay. Try very subtly take back and break.
Sure, do you want to wait till you get back?
You're gonna miss all the.
Okay, it's okay.
Well, So I'm gonna share my screen and take everyone through our profit and loss statement. So I'm actually gonna skip in the order it's in the board package. The first document is this same total numbers, but broken out by month. So, but I'm just gonna skip ahead to the totals. So, so the high level note for this and for everyone's understanding is that this P&L is based on the way our accounts were structured in 2022. And Stacy has been amazing and working on reviewing and updating how we are handling our accounts and how we're classifying expenditures. And so this very well might change, but it didn't make sense to change that out in the middle of the year. So now that we've closed out 2022, we're looking ahead to how this will change in the coming year. But for the time being, the high level is that this is how it's presented as of right now. So you'll see two different things for pledge income and grants income. Grant income means it's doesn't become revenue until it's spent. So pledge income means it's actually been given to us, whereas grant income is like, it's a grant, but it's earmarked for a certain expenditure. The majority of the grant income line here, it's actually a little bit misleading because, and again, this goes to how we're reevaluating how our accounts have been done in the past. It's a little bit misleading because the vast majority of that is from the Novo grant. So it actually goes towards our 2023 expenses, but because the income hit our accounts in December 22, it shows up on our profit and loss statement for 22. So it's a little bit misleading, but you'll understand it. I should also mention that the donations here, that there's a total of just under $25,000 in donations, but that also is a little bit underreported because even though we got roughly $23,000 in donations, they were submitted at the end of December, but they don't hit our bank account until January. So that additional donations aren't reflected on here either. It's actually kind of a good thing. It's underreported here. So the other big thing, scroll down a little bit. But overall, I will say that we came in, like the high level note is that we came in under budget. Our budget was, we came in roughly $100,000 under what we had budgeted for 2022. So that's all really good. The other big thing to note on our expenses, everything else here at the bottom of this first page is pretty much just our operating expenses like office costs, nothing huge to note, but of course, if anybody has questions, feel free to jump in. The other thing to note is that here at the bottom, you'll see we have these three different categories of expenses. There's due diligence, property costs, and also project expenses. And in the past, these have been broken out similarly to the way they would be classified on invoices that we're submitting, which doesn't actually really make sense because really each of these expenses should be sort of earmarked for whichever property they're going towards. And part of the reason of that, and Stacy, please, I don't know if she's still here, but please jump in if I get this wrong because I'm still learning a lot from her. Each of those expenses on our properties should increase the asset value of the properties by the same equivalent amount. And so we had not been doing that in the past, in part because they were sort of just logged as project expenses. And then when the auditor helped us clean everything up at the end of the year, they were allocated to the different properties. We're going to work on changing that going forward. But again, we wanted to show this as is for 2022. But again, the high level note is we came in under our budget. So that's all really good. So now I'm gonna jump back to the balance sheet.
And part of being over
Okay.
budget is what allowed us to buy down the price of the first two legacy cities of these right?
The source of the funding is I won't speak for Stacy, but I think we should take a little more time to identify the sources of all the different funding for things. We're still trying to make that very clear.
Yeah, so that's the other big high level update here is that we're still doing a thorough evaluation of what we're calling the obligated versus unobligated funds. And I was gonna talk about that actually right now when we get to the balance sheet. So you'll see that, let me go to the top of the balance sheet. So here's our balance sheet as of end of the year. You'll see there's this big dollar amount for total bank accounts of $1.6 million roughly. And that seems like a lot, but a lot of those funds are already basically earmarked for certain projects and properties. And right now, Stacy's doing a great job of reviewing and trying to untangle how much of these funds are actually already earmarked for things versus what is, we're calling unobligated funds that can go towards acquisition of new properties, buying down the value of other properties, et cetera. So that review is ongoing. Believe me, I'm sure you all have questions on that. I do too, but Stacey's been doing a great job and we're getting there. So just bear with us for a little bit longer. What was else I was gonna say? Okay, on the balance sheet. Everything again here is pretty much in line with what we expected and what we had budgeted. Under these current assets, or the fixed assets, to go to what I was saying before. The fixed assets for these properties are going to be updated. We haven't rolled up the expenses from the profit and loss, like I was saying before, at the end of the year, we have these property cost expenses that get rolled up through the auditors into individual properties. So that's being done now. We are going to do that in a more strategic way going forward, so it's not something that's sort of reconciled at the end of the year and something that is done on a going forward basis. The other thing you'll see, 149 Greenkill is still on the balance sheet, even though we've sold that property. So again, that goes to, we're waiting for the expenses to be cleaned up with the auditors, and that will no longer be shown as a fixed asset. It'll be shown as like income from sold properties. You'll also see in future reports that the legacy cities properties are going to be removed because they were transferred to the LLC. So the other big thing that's being worked on is having separate reports for the LLC. For now, we can look to the great spreadsheets that Owen and Kyle are putting together because that gives a really good overview of the budgets and the expenses for those individual properties, but we are going to have separate financial reports for the LLC in future weeks. So scroll down through the balance sheet in case there's any other questions. Any other questions for the board on the financials? No? So the next thing is, we have our auditor through EFPR. The finance committee discussed in our meeting already, and we recommend going forward with engagement of them for this year and the same way they did last year. Just to give some color to that, we think is important because they have the consistency of working with us in the past, and they are aware of some of the transition that we had in our financials. So we thought it'd be really good to stick with them for this year. Do we need to vote on that?
With the cost of their services to RFP.
So technically, this is something I think we talked about last month, but we also talked about it at finance. I made the recommendation to finance that per 7.2.c of our procurement policy, it should fall under sole source, given the unique nature of the prior auditor's ability, and it is under budget too.
That's professional service. So
As a lawyer, this seems hard.
So, okay, so we don't have to, or is it more just?
I think you should, it's procurement under sole source section of the procurement
I'll
policy. so
entertain a motion to,
did we vote on the treasury report?
We got tons of votes to do. Right? Now you go post.
Oh, I didn't realize that all the other stuff is not.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the monthly treasurer's report.
Second votes.
All in favor of accepting this beautiful treasurer's report provided by Nate and Stacy? Nate, do you want to vote to accept your?
Oh, yeah.
Vote passes unanimously, thank you. Okay, now I will entertain a motion to engage with EFPR as we've done in the past to conduct your 2023 audit services.
I'll second.
All in favor of that? Motion passes unanimously, okay. Sorry.
I skipped one in mine. I think I went out of order because I had it in different order. in my notes. I know. But, so we also discussed in our finance committee meeting, the idea of having an investment policy. And the impetus behind this, just to give you guys all the background, is as you saw in our balance sheet, there's a lot of money that is just cash on hand, that even though it's earmarked for certain things, so we need to be able to access those funds at any given time. It makes sense from a financial standpoint to at least put that money in a savings or money market account that can earn interest, because that's $1.6 million that's just sitting there. So rather than, we still are researching a couple, we have like a short list of different places that we're looking at. But rather than have to, go to the board each time and review individual savings policies, we hold this investment policy together. So I'm going to share it with you. It wasn't included in the board package, so I'll walk you all through it. But I will give you the background that we basically took this from NICON, the New York Conference of Nonprofits. They had a template investment policy. Much of it didn't apply to us because it involved things like actually putting it into investments like stocks and bonds that we're not going to do. But we took the sort of basic outline of it, and it had some good language relating to money market accounts. So I wanted to clarify that because the intention here is not to be rolling the dice with KCLB funds in the stock market. The intention is simply to put this in, I should say, not just the intention, but the actual authorization of this policy is just to authorize the finance committee to oversee putting those funds in a savings account that is fully liquid so we can access it, is, federally insured, not some sort of sketchy savings account, and, has a good interest rate that we can earn some money on the cash that is just sitting there. So I'm happy to walk through the specifics of this, but, essentially, like I said, we basically copied this exactly from the NICON template investment policy. So this lays out the purpose of this policy. I'll need to skip through that. Tell me if I'm going too fast.
So technically, the first bullet point is at odds with their.
Yeah, we should take that one out.
It's a word.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And excuse the formatting issues, we copied this over from PDF. So it made some of this a little bit wonky. I'll clean that up, but the language, should we pass this, the language will stay the same. Some of this might not be applicable either. But
Well, I guess the main point to me is like, we're authorizing the committee to sort of do this exercise, but money won't get moved around and invested without board approval.
that's right. Yeah,
So.
we're not going out and buying stocks or anything like that. We're just selecting a savings account to put our money in rather than the checking account that's sitting in right now.
Okay,
So I'll go down to here. Again, these are all just these sort of investment considerations and background.
But wait, Daniel, to answer your question, this would, if we pass this, it would authorize the money to be transferred without it coming back to the board. Although I think the understanding is still that this would all occur with kind of ongoing communication to the board. Is that right, Mike and Nate?
That's the way I see it. We wouldn't be making any purchases without board approval. We would just be selecting an account that's holding our money without having to go back to the board.
and the account is
So
a
here's
pretty
the,
traditional savings account or a money market?
yeah, so here's the operative section that we left in. That it permits the finance committee to up to 65% of our total assets to put in a quality money market fund. But that's the only thing that it really authorizes the finance committee to do without having to go back to the full board. And it specifies that it's a fund that has liquidity, so, you know, if we have for example, I'm already forgetting the acronym, NCST process, there's a house that comes on and we need to withdraw 150K from this account, we're able to do that. But at least that money is now not sitting there doing nothing for us.
One thing that excites me a lot about this is that at 3% interest with $1 million, the $30,000 that the board authorized at the last meeting to buy down the price of 200, that just falls out of the sky.
Right, but the 3% interest is a savings account, right?
Little.
A money market account is.
Yeah.
In other words, your 3% interest is not guaranteed with a money market account, it is with the savings.
If you can find them at 3%.
Right, whatever, right,
That's true.
I mean,
It's not a CD.
Right.
Where we are locked into a 6-month hold on that money. It's only a money market
It's
account.
always liquid and it's always more than zero,
Yes,
which is where we're at.
But, and to be clear, money market accounts are a kind of savings account. They're not something distinct. They're just a particular kind of savings account.
but aren't they tied to the stock market?
No,
I know those whiskies.
no,
So where do they live? At M&T?
well, M&T was one of the list options we were looking at, but we crossed them out because their rates were lower. A couple of the options we're looking at are
It's a good rate, right?
Mid Hudson Valley Credit Union, Rondout had one we were looking at. our no savings bank. And we're still looking at other options too, but M&T was really low. Green, what is it, Green County? Bank of Green County, we crossed that one off because the rates were a lot lower than what we were seeing in the marketplace. There's one through Goldman Sachs that we were looking at, but there were some articles that came out that it might be sketchy, so we're thinking about that one.
That's why I'm asking all these questions, because I'm like, that scared me.
But yes, it's only federally insured savings or money market accounts. We're not going out and buying stock. In fact, it's only an account that we have ownership to and are able to withdraw the funds at any time. So it just means we're taking money from our checking, putting it into a savings or money market account that has more than 0% interest. And we are still able to withdraw or deposit at any time.
Can I say something?
Please.
Hi, everybody. So I suggested this investment policy because I've seen it in nonprofits. Really, we're not really investing. So our bank M&T has a lousy savings account option. So it's just, we're trying to find a way. So some of these entities just usually just move money from one account to another and nobody even knows about it, right? But because now we're saying we're going to go to another entity or institution to get more money back, more interest earned. That's why we wanted to institute this policy, just so that everybody's aware. Like no one's going to look at and say, why did they move money out of M&T into, Marcus Fund or Vanguard Fund? And all of them are exactly dollar for dollar funds, meaning like, you buy it for $1 and then you get the dollar back out. So there is no risk of any loss of principal. So we just, M&T's is not giving us what we need. So we want to be able to go somewhere else. And I think that this policy says that. It says, we're gonna, I guess maybe this policy, maybe it's too wordy for you, Daniel. I'm not sure if it's confusing you.
I guess, I think it's more that I'm not familiar with money market accounts broadly, so no risk of a reduction in our principal to me feels like the operative kind of question. I don't want to lose money by being.
Yeah.
Well, neither do we.
Right.
It would only be certain options that have zero risk of the money value going down and are fully liquid so that we can withdraw the funds if needed. And again, and to Stacy's point, I think had M&T had a better savings account option, we would have just transferred it over to a savings account without even bringing this up to the board because we're already banking at M&T, but they don't. So because we have to potentially move this to a different bank, we felt like it was better to have, and also from an auditing perspective, so that the auditors see we have this policy and that's why this money was moved. That's why we're doing this.
Okay.
But I know that we didn't have a chance to get this ahead of time, so if there are concerns, please don't hesitate to say it. We can retool this and represent it at the next meeting if that's what people prefer.
So I'm very sorry, this was not in the board package.
It was not, no.
I mean, how do you guys feel about?
We can table it. That's totally fine.
I feel like that would be smart. I too many directions. I had a conversation with somebody who I think is very qualified in this field, and I asked if you'd be willing to join the next finance committee meeting, and then I can drop that. But if you guys are open to that, I think it can be valuable.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? We'll table this, we'll retool this because I also need to fix some of the weird formatting things, and maybe simplify this, because again, we took it from the Nikon template that included a whole bunch of language about like actual investments, like stocks and bonds and things that we're just not gonna do. So I think we can simplify this, retool it, and present at the next board meeting. In the meantime, also, please, if you have suggestions or ideas for other savings accounts and money markets that I have like sort of a running chart that like is trying to compare the different options. So if you have any suggestions, please send.
My mattresses work super well.
Just read some.
I don't know. Okay, that sounds good to me. Cool. Okay, thank you. And do you think by next time you would have a money market selected that?
I think we'll definitely, like, the plan is to hopefully at the next finance meeting to have a recommendation for one to the board. One or two that we can narrow it down to, a short list. We're hoping to do that by today, but we didn't get a chance. So there are a lot of options, and some of them need a little more research.
There's a lot of money, we should be careful.
Yeah, but that's why we're taking, that's why I wanted to give a whole lot of like background on this of what the objective is, because I do not want to risk any of that. Like my thought process in this is to take the most conservative approach possible. And even if the interest rate is lower, if it means it's safer, that's the better option for us. Because anything we earn on this money is great. Like we are good budget wise. So this is just making our cash on hand work for us a little better. Because right now it's just sitting there.
Board retreat. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy, did I get all that right? Did I miss anything? Not just on this, but on the finance report too.
No, I think you explained it very well. Yeah, so next month will be, it will look different. So it's good that you said that this is gonna be like the end of this way. It's not gonna be significantly different. And then we can talk about that next month, what the differences are. But I do have to reach out to the auditor to get some guidance on some of what's happening. So, yeah, so thanks for your patience. We're gonna get it worked out.
Thank you. And thank you for continuing with us this year. I'm not sure we
Yeah, you're
established,
welcome.
but we appreciate
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Cool. Anything else? That concludes the finance and public report. Okay, Aaron, right? For comms? Anything?
So this will be, I think, relatively brief. First, 2022 end of year fundraising. I wanted to note for those of you who weren't at the comms meeting, that I think you saw there was I sent a couple of emails to everybody. In the last 2 days of the last calendar year, between December 29th and December 31st, we received a significant amount of money in donations, $23,400, including several donations in the $500,000 range. I wanted to point out one particularly generous donation. We received a $20,000 donation from an individual in Kingston, a resident of Kingston. In our thankful correspondence with her, she explained that she gives away a portion of her income each year to an organization working in advancing racial justice, and this year she chose the Kingston Land Bank for our work in affordable homeownership in the area. She's a resident of Kingston, and so we thank her tremendously and appreciate her support, and her money, her donation will go to good use in the next year as we get more homes back on the market. So thank you very much for everybody who donated last year. 2023 fundraising. I don't have much to say other than that there will be 2023 fundraising. I think this past year, my first year doing this, I have stumbled my way through it month to month. And I hope that each year I get better at being more strategic about how we organize fundraising and how we pursue it both within Kingston and with funders beyond. And so I think maybe at the next board meeting, I'll come together to talk about various plans and possibilities. But just to say that I'm gonna make an effort to be more focused on, I don't know, organized about it this year, I suppose, is my personal goal. And then last, the big one is Legacy Cities marketing. So I think the marketing Gantt chart that Kyle created with Mike, I believe, does everybody have access to it? Or is it just the committee?
It was in the last board package, Aaron, but that was the static version, so.
Right. Well, it's in the drive, so
Everyone should have access to it in the drive.
yeah. If you go to the drive, Kyle created a wonderful Gantt chart that goes through essentially everything that the Land Bank has promised to do as a part of the marketing campaign, promised to do to the state in our application for funding. Many of these items Mike has already taken care of, Mike and Kyle are already taken care of, are working on individually with particular board members, with Bartek, working on the email list with me and Daniel, social media posts, radio interviews, which are going to be scheduled. And then the big one that the board can assist with and that we discussed in our committee meeting this week is outreach to nonprofits and labor groups and activist groups and religious organizations of various kinds in and around Kingston who have constituencies who can help us spread the word of these two homes that are for sale. So at the last committee meeting a few days ago, we divvied up those organizations so that we can each make initial contact with a handful of them. If you're not a part of that committee and you'd like to assist, please reach out or take a look at the Gantt chart, which is in the drive to see kind of how we've divvied them up. If the organizations that are not on the list that you would like to reach out to, please feel free to add it and send an email letting everyone know that you're going to reach out to them. And our hope is that by showing up to churches in the area and by meeting with, the YMCA and with some of the local unions and others, and sending around and circulating our marketing materials, that we can increase the number of applicants that we have for these two homes over the next 60 days. I believe that is everything we really need to discuss from it. Is there anything else that others have that they want to raise and bring up today on the marketing campaign? All right, well, with that, I'll just say by next meeting, we'll be a little over halfway through. And so Mike has the flyers that he printed and designed with Kyle to circulate today for people to pass out. Please take them and get that started. I'll be doing it later this week as well. And we're excited to sell the homes. I will say that just from the few social media posts that we've done so far, we've already gotten like 7 or 8 different messages from people asking how to apply, and that's a small fraction of the number of applicants we're going to get. So, Mike, do you know now how many applicants we're at? Have you checked today by chance?
Over 30.
Oh,
And
30.
so we're over 30 for this campaign since it started, and in between campaigns, I believe the number is around 60. So we're nearing in on 100 new households who have applied, bringing our total to 610. So yes, I did check. Obsessive.
Thank you for checking.
Good, excellent.
Good text.
I would just stress that in that beautiful Gantt chart that Kyle put together, one of the tabs is outreach forms. We have a long list of organizations, like Erin was saying. If you have anything to add to that list, please do ASAP. And yeah, I think we also discussed, so basically the committee sort of divvied up all these places to bring flyers and stuff, but I think there was also a desire to do some like door to door. We haven't really talked about, but if folks are interested in doing that, maybe we'll discuss over email. And yeah, hoping for boots on the ground. Cool. Thanks, Aaron. Governance.
Governance did not meet this past month. Did we meet? No, we did not.
No, but we have to do the second. bylaw.
Yes, I'll just note before that, we did receive a board member application, but she was not qualified because she did not have City of Kingston residency. Even though she does own a business in Kingston. The radio ad that is being recorded or has been recorded does also include a call for board applicants, which will be evergreen. The language is good for a long time. And then I also, on my to-do list is to send financial disclosure forms to the board, which you will be receiving soon. That's all I have to say.
Cool. So the bylaws are in your board package. They start on page 50. And so when we change the bylaws, we have to do this weird state sanctioned process where we read them 1 month, 30 days or whatever to consider them, we read, and then we can go. So we've already been over this last time. It was basically changing our board term stuff. It used to read essentially if somebody resigned in the middle of their term, the new person would serve out the rest of that term and then start a 3-year term. We decided that was kind of stupid and hard to keep track of, so we are proposing changing it to anytime there's a new director placed on the board, they are afforded the same 3-year term that everyone else gets. So I think those are the only changes.
There's a second update to remove the number of committee members that's maxed out per committee. It was just a cleanup a few months ago. It's on page 55, 54, 54. It was just deleted. It's so minor. It's just cleanup.
Thank you. Yeah, so we used to have committees capped at 4 members, which it turns out was not legally required, so why not let people serve on the committees they want to be on? Yeah, those are the only changes. So, do I have to physically read these? The whole thing. So, I suppose I will entertain a motion to approve the bylaw changes as written in our board package.
Motion to accept the revised bylaws.
Any discussion? Or no, I need a second. We have 2 seconds. Any further discussion needed on this? All right, all in favor of accepting the bylaw changes? Motion passes once again. Beautiful. Okay. Cool. Design committee did not meet, so I would like to, we could do this over email, but maybe we could do, I think we should try to do a monthly meeting. Maybe start as a monthly, see if we need to, if it doesn't make sense to do every month. So do you guys have proposed time?
Mornings are usually best for me.
Any chance of Friday at 12:30?
This Friday?
Well, I guess starting the. It would be the same day as ADC and comms. Basically just in between those two meetings.
Just ABC since I'm there.
Oh, 11:30 on the Friday. You know, we might have to just sort of rejigger these depending on people's schedules.
Oh,
So
no,
should I
changing
know?
committee dates.
Well, how should we do this? I don't want to like spend an hour doing this in this meeting, but. Can you?
Why don't the committee chairs send out some doodle things?
We don't have committee chairs.
We don't?
Not really, because at the first meeting of the year, the committee elects their chair. So last year's chair is.
Last year.
Okay, that's all.
So close.
So basically, if committee chairs, I'm talking also to myself, could send an email to their committees. Mike, could you send around just what the new committee topics?
Yeah, of course. I'll update the website too, so people.
So yeah, if you could send an email, saying when the meetings currently take place and seeing if those times still work for everybody on the committee. And if we need to change anything, we do. No, I don't know.
You're gonna have the former chair send it out to the membership saying,
Yes,
when you want to be.
Perfect.
yes,
I love that.
or yes. Okay, that was great. So we're gonna try to start meeting regularly, especially now that there's three of us, it's so exciting. Otherwise, just sort of rolling with the punches of construction, things change frequently. Owen has done a beautiful job keeping everybody in the loop. Things are moving along pretty well. The design committee. I did a fair amount of work to try to pull those kind of stuff together, so hopefully you like them, I don't know. That's it. We have discussed, this is almost kind of a crossover with fundraising, but we've discussed trying to have our beautiful new logo printed up on things like tote bags and t-shirts and mugs and things like that. That could end up being a thing in the spring when the farmers market starts back up. We sort of talked about it, comms potentially as a way to, get the word out, but also as a potential small fundraising stream. So that's something we'll discuss at our first design committee meeting of the year.
Is this a first for March? Yeah.
We've printed t-shirts before, like just for.
But I realized I want to.
I was only with that. Mine immediately turned into a work shirt. Covering ground. But I always feel weird like wearing it while I'm like walking around tools, like really prepping. So yeah, but we only have had this logo since September, something like that. And it's so pretty, we should do stuff with it. So, we got that. We still have no members of the public, so we can skip that. New business, as Mike mentioned,
Sorry, I brought it up.
really gonna interrupt. I will be at least attempting to report to the Common Council caucus in a couple of weeks. So I guess if you, I'm gonna, try to draft something, I guess I'm around. If you have thoughts or ideas, I'm of course.
Are you going to do a written speech or a deck? I'm just curious as to the format.
Oh, it didn't occur to me, we could do a deck. That would actually be really nice.
The visuals
Because
are
of
important part of the story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great idea.
Okay.
Thanks, Bart.
I mean, I don't want to create more work.
No, no,
I
I mean,
think
I'm sure we
just the
can start.
visuals
Yeah,
of the completed homes and the ones we're working on right now, I
right,
think are
that's very smart,
vital to the story.
very smart. Okay. Yeah, it'll work. Otherwise, we have our flyers, so Mike's gonna hand those out at least to committee members, but if you're not on the comms committee, if you want some flyers, take some flyers, we're gonna have more written. And don't forget to elect your committee chairs at your first committee meetings. And I believe you're supposed to also elect a secretary of the committee. Historically, we haven't really done that, but choose your adventure. All right, any other new business from anybody? Great. Then I will.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment? Unanimously, thank you everyone. I look forward to this exciting year.
Thanks, guys. See ya.